This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Double B Fallness back again. Just want to say, as far as predictions on the St. Louis game tonight goes, wasn't it the last time we played St. Louis, Fleury almost had a fight with Binnington? I feel like we get in Binnington's head a lot more times than not, and I feel like we'll do it again tonight, especially with that top line rolling, young guys rolling, Z William, man in that top PP unit. I think we got him tonight. I'm going with 5-2 Wild. I want to say 5-1, but they might get a cheeser. Thanks, guys.
Hi, that's Eric from Hastings. 2025, the Wild finish with 105 points. Boldy leads the team with just over a point a game at 83, nudging out Kirill, who finishes just under a point a game at 80. But they're both overshadowed by Maple Grove's own Brock Faber, who wins the Norris Trophy. Thank you.
That's the beauty of opening night, though. Everything's on the table. There should be nothing negative at this point. Certainly the injury situation isn't great, but other than that, everybody's locked up. The contracts are done. Bill Guerin's got his feet up, and we're getting ready for the drop of the puck. Game number 1 of 82 coming up tonight from St. Louis. Wild taking on the Blues. Pregame at 6:45. Puck drop at 7:14 on your home for all things Wild hockey. FM 100.3 The Fan. Keep those talkbacks coming. Those are fantastic. And we're going to get a little open segment here coming up after we talk to Dave Fisher. But get those talkbacks in. I've already given away a pair of tickets for Saturday night. Wild taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets in the home opener. Max Long, enjoy the game. Great seats available, not only for Max, but for anyone out there, wild.com/tickets. To the phone lines we go. We check in with Dave Fisher from USA Hockey. I assume in Colorado Springs. Am I right, Dave? Are you in the great state of Colorado?
Kevin, I am. I'll be in the Twin Cities on Monday, but home for now. And Eric from Hastings got the juices flowing. Right. I love that, and brought back memories. I used to live in Hastings back in the day, so should be a fun night tonight for the Wild. And I love hearing the predictions. It's awesome. It
is. This is the time to do it. A week from now, a month from now, it might not be as glorious and happy and rainbows and happiness, but right now it's game number 1, and like I said, everything's on the table. Same thing for USA Hockey. What a year is coming! What a year it's been, and a year that's coming up. We got the World Juniors coming up. The Olympics are just right around the corner. This is a good time to be a fan of international hockey, but especially the red, white, and blue. Dave.
Yeah, Kevin, no doubt. You know, our country's in as good a shape as it's ever been in the sport of hockey, between all our youth programs across the country and everything that USA Hockey does, coaching and officiating, education, junior hockey, obviously to our international teams, what we do at the NTDP in Plymouth. So it was a really fun year last year on the international stage with an unprecedented 5 gold medals and the World Championship play at the top levels, and a chance to follow that up this year really on a bigger stage with the Olympics and Paralympics. And of course, you mentioned the World Juniors coming to the Twin Cities here at the end of December and the beginning of January.
We'll get into all the details of what's coming up in the future, but rewind just a little bit in the past and how much fun the Four Nations tournament was. I think everyone had high hopes for that event, but holy moly. And I know the Americans fell short, but if that doesn't whet your appetite, not only for the World Juniors, but of course the Olympics coming up in February, man, oh man, Dave, I don't know whose idea it was, but it went off with a bang.
Yeah, the stars certainly aligned there, Kevin, didn't they? Great hockey on the ice, some of the geopolitical forces off the ice that contributed to some of the visibility, too, and to think the championship game in Boston would get close to 10 million viewers on ESPN, and the traction on social media and trending, and, you know, it all starts with the players, though. I mean, the great play by our players, and gosh, we have just a dynamite group, again, at all levels. Particularly, we're talking about men's hockey here, particularly on the men's level, some with the Wild now that we will likely see. I'm not picking the team. That'll be up to Bill Guerin and his team, but some I'm guessing we'll see on the Olympic team here coming up in Italy. And just a really fun time for hockey and a great time to gain new fans of the game, which we're always aspiring to do.
Yeah, I think they did just that with the Four Nations tournament. I can only speak for my little corner of the world. I was at one of my kids' hockey tournaments up north. I think we were watching at one of the Zorbas, and I think that Saturday night game that you're talking about, and the bar was filled. I mean, wall-to-wall people. Every TV was on that hockey game, and the USA chants. Everyone's, just toasting each other and having a blast watching that hockey game. I just can't imagine. And to think that it's going to ramp up, because that's what the Olympics are. And it feels like it's been way too long since we've had that international competition. And now we get it twice within about 12 months. I can't wait for us to drop the puck on what should be a phenomenal Olympic series for not only Americans, but everyone that gets to take part.
No, there's not a bigger stage, as we know, than the Olympics. And your stories about the Four Nations, I heard similar things from plenty of people around the country, including our good pal Jim Carroll, was following along there in the Twin Cities, along with many others. But our team, again, we won the World Championship at the top level on the men's side, the women's side, the Paralympic sled side, and we'll have a chance to replicate that on an even bigger stage come February for the Olympics, and March in the Paralympics. And our teams are well positioned. We have great players, obviously great coaches and support staff, and great fans. And it'll be fun. It's always fun, the Olympics. I always love seeing what our fans do. And again, it'll be a little bit different time zone in Italy. So people opening up bars early and getting going and getting on the red, white, and blue, painting their faces, putting on jerseys. It's a fun time, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we're used to it. The last couple of weeks watching the Vikings in Ireland and London and setting the alarm clock for 8:30 in the morning. We're used to this. It'll be no problem getting up early to watch hockey of that level. First, though, you got the World Juniors, and you talk about whetting your appetite. You get to do it right in your own backyard. These guys are on a different level. Eventually, they'll be on that level, because you look at a lot of the guys that make up the Olympic rosters, and a lot of guys that are from these NHL teams, the top stars, have all played in the World Juniors. Well, you get to see them at 18 years of age and right in that time frame at not only Grand Casino Arena, but also 3M Arena at Mariucci. This is going to be awesome coming up in December to ring in the new year.
It is, and I don't know if it was Eric or from Hastings or the previous person to him mentioned Zeke Boyum, Brock Faber, guys on the Wild that have played in the World Juniors, and I don't know, the vast majority of players on the Wild, Americans and not, have played in the World Junior Hockey Championship, and it's special to bring to the state of hockey again. Obviously, having grown up in Minnesota myself, my wife's from Austin, Minnesota, so having those Minnesota roots, that's special in and of itself. But it's the 50th anniversary of the tournament, and there's very few times we get to host this tournament in the United States, so it's a cherished time, and the fans are in for a real treat. You just don't get events like this in your community. I know it's been in Minnesota one time before. There was 82, if memory serves me correct, so an awful long time ago. Probably, I don't know if anybody out there listening remembers that, but the tournament has gotten to a much higher level in prominence, and of course our country has won the gold medal the last 2 years. We've never ever done that before. Have a chance for a repeat, and it will be nice to finally play in front of our home fans. Again, don't get the opportunity to do that very often. So encourage people to come out. I know single game tickets have just now gone on sale. World Juniors MN26.com is where you can go get them all day last. World Juniors MN26.com. And not only, obviously, the focus is on the competition on the ice, but our friends at Minnesota Sports and Events, who are the local organizing committee, have got so many other ancillary things planned for the pomp and circumstance and celebration of the tournament. It's going to really be fantastic.
Yeah, I think most people that are listening to this, at least, especially the folks that listen to Beyond the Pond and the folks that listen, are hockey fans in the state, we don't need to sell them on how great this tournament is. It's outstanding. And to have it in your backyard, make the most of the opportunity to go out there and watch the future superstars of the National Hockey League today on this level. It's great hockey. Kirill Kaprizov, that's another guy, here with Minnesota ties, that played for Team Russia before he became an NHL superstar. And that's just one example. I remember Crosby and Ovechkin back in the day who played in this tournament as well, right?
Yeah, I remember that was my first World Juniors in Grand Forks in 2005, where those two guys were there facing off, and it's an incredible tournament. I know that probably a large portion of the listening audience is aware of it. I'm sure there's plenty that aren't as well, but get in on the action. I mean, there's an All-Star Mom Challenge at Minnesota Sports and Events that's got going right now. It ends on Sunday coming up, so again, you can go to that same website, worldjuniorsmn26.com, and learn all about that. But it's really a cool thing to celebrate. Hockey moms is what they're calling it, but it could be any adult who fills that role, dads, grandparents, guardians, aunts, uncles, anyone who makes it possible for kids to play the sport they all love. And you go in and make your submission, and they've got a lot of great prizes, including a $500 gift certificate to the Mall of America for the winner. So I get in on that. The youth clinics are starting, I know, October 16th around the state, as, again, part of the celebration of the sport. There's a big 50 Days Out event at the Mall of America planned for November 6th. We'll learn a lot more about the Fan Fest, both indoor and outdoor, that'll take place during the tournament. And again, we're going to celebrate this with the state, with some of the pre-tournament camps with the 10 teams participating that are going to be sprinkled around the state, and we'll have more on that here coming up soon too. So a lot of news, a lot of fun. Great precursor to certainly the Olympics and Paralympics and everything else that goes on, Kevin.
Awesome stuff. And I know there's a lot of other good things coming up, including Team USA Night at Grand Casino Arena, November 29th, when the Wild host the Buffalo Sabres. That'll be great. Ticket packs available, wild.com/tickets. The U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame induction is coming up, including Zach Parise, Joe Pavelski, Scott Gomez, some other great names as well, honoring the great Ray Shero as well with the Lester Patrick Trophy. So you can go and check out that at the St. Paul River Center. Before I let you go, Dave, though, I wanted to get your opinion. I know we're talking on a real high level, how things are going for USA Hockey, and it couldn't be any better. How about the sport in general on the youth stages? I'm watching Bantams and now high school hockey with the kids that I have playing hockey, and it's a lot of fun here in St. Louis Park. But again, this is just my little corner of the world. USA Hockey in general, how is it on the youth level?
Well, I'd sum it up this way, Kevin. Back when we were young, a long time ago, at least for me, I shouldn't speak for you, but it was Minnesota, Massachusetts, and Michigan. Really, that was predominantly hockey in the U.S. Today, hockey's played in all 50 states in our country. Last season, there were more players, coaches, and officials. It was record numbers all the way across the board at all levels of the game. So obviously I mentioned the international success our teams had last year, but at the grassroots level where it really all starts and the success we enjoy on the international stage starts with all the great volunteers around the country at the grassroots level helping kids and families evolve. We know the merits of the sport, all the great things it brings to the fabric of society through sport, and it's great. I mean, and it's fun to see how far it's come, and we're continuing to climb that mountain. So many great partners involved in the NHL, the PWHL now on the women's side, and so many others. And we're fortunate just to have the infrastructure that we do and the passion of the great people involved in the sport, including our great fans, which I know they're in Minnesota. They'll be cheering for the Wild tonight.
Without a doubt, lots to love about hockey.
We got the Gophers in BC tonight, too, on the college side, on the men's side.
We just had Micheletti on. He was talking about the Golden Gophers. They split with Michigan Tech last week, but I know that he's excited to see how they rebound, not only tonight, but as the season rolls on. They've had to reload there under Bob Motzko, but I don't think there's any doubt that they'll be fine there in Dinkytown as the season rolls along.
And it's also great to see the new rink open at St. Thomas. We always need more facilities, and fun to see. Again, that's more the churn of the sport, more interest in it, and it will continue down that path, I certainly believe, here as we turn along here over the next decade.
Lots to love about hockey. Best part about it is no squeaky shoes. Dave, thanks for joining us here 9 to noon on KFAN, and we'll talk. It sounds like you're going to be in town this weekend, so we'll see you probably Monday at Grand Casino Arena.
Sounds good, Kevin. Thanks a lot.
All right, Dave. See ya. That's Dave Fisher from USA Hockey talking about the World Juniors. Great stuff. I don't need to sell that. It sells itself. It's phenomenal hockey, and that's going to be a great way to lead into the Olympics. But I'd say the vast majority are not going to Italy to watch the Olympics in person. You get to watch the World Juniors in person, not only in St. Paul, but also on the U of M campus. So jump on that with haste. We'll squeeze in a break. When we continue, we're going to do a segment of all talkbacks. You get them in right right now, Brett Blakemore and I are going to sift through a bunch of them, and we're going to give away some tickets for the home opener coming up Saturday when the Wild host the Columbus Blue Jackets. You don't win, you're not out of luck. There are tickets available, and some good ones, in fact, at wild.com/tickets. That's next on The Fan.
Before we go, The Fan and Two Men in a Junk Truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks in the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is credits. Keyword credit. KFAN.com. Keyword credit.
Yeah, this is Roy from Mayor. Unlike when you go to the casino, we don't need any puck luck. We got Kaprizov, and he's going to have a grand year. Not only are we making it out of the second round, I think we might just hoist the cup this year. Come on, boys. Let's go Wild.
I love it. I love that positive energy. Again, I've hosted Beyond the Pond. I've hosted Wild Fan Line, and not every day is filled with rainbows and unicorns. I get it. But on day number one, it should be. And that's the sentiment coming through on the vast majority of these talkbacks and also on the text line at 64686. Everybody's excited for game number one, Brett, and for good reason. They should be.
There's nothing but hope. Hope springs eternal, or in this case, falls eternal. It doesn't matter to me. I can't wait for this game to start.
I can't either. 6:45 tonight, a little bit later puck drop. Not terrible. Not like we're going at 10 o'clock tonight, but it'll be 7:14 to be exact. I think it's a little bit later puck drop on Saturday as well. I'll tell you what, I'm super excited about Saturday. The Wild hockey aside, I mean, and obviously that's the big draw in the fact that the Wild are opening up the home schedule, but we're doing a kind of a forum prior to the game for about an hour. I used to do this thing called Hockey Unplugged, and we'd go to a bar and we'd sit there with a couple of players and it'd just be Q&A. I'd fire off a bunch of questions and then the fans would get the opportunity. And one thing that we're doing on Saturday night, we're bringing back the inaugural coaching staff and Doug Risebrough. And now what that means is Jacques Lemaire, Mario Tremblay, Mike Ramsey, Bob Mason, and Doug Risebrough, all sitting there at the front on a stage. And we're just going to talk hockey. We're going to remember the glory days and how much fun it was to be a part of that inaugural season back in the year 2000 until, that time came up in 2009, whatever it was. It was 9 or 10 seasons of that coaching staff. And it was so much fun. And the stories that they're going to have, there are some tickets available for that event leading into the game as well. You can find that information at wild.com. I'm super excited about that. Like, I've talked to Jacques, I don't know, half a dozen times since he left, all over the phone, whether it's on Beyond the Pond or it's hosting on KFAN, filling in for someone. But I haven't seen him since he left. I haven't talked to Mario Tremblay since he left. And Doug Risebrough, I think we've had him on once or twice since his time came to an end. But this is going to be awesome to get behind the scenes of what it was like to bring this franchise up from the ground up.
How much money do you think it would take for Corey Cove to be there at the Q&A and ask Jock a question?
Oh, that would be so good, wouldn't it?
I'd pay a lot to see that. Guys.
I think that would be good.
Yeah, it would.
I would love to be there for that. I don't think it's going to happen.
I've got a talk back for you.
Let's hear it.
Some Wild.
Yep.
Christopher St. Paul here. Good morning, fellas. I have a 3-pronged question. Now that we have Kirill locked up, what is the status of his durability through an entire season and leading into the playoffs when it's really important to have him? Then, what is the development status of the blue line to help aging Brodin and Spurgeon? And 3, what's the over-under on how many minutes it'll take Blakemore to bring up the Packers? Good morning and good day.
You kind of did that to yourself there, talkback guy, bringing up the Packers. We're going to try to avoid them for 3 hours. I don't know if it's possible.
I haven't said...
You're dying to, aren't you?
No, I'm talking Wild. It's opening night. Come on.
So the big question is about the durability of Kirill Kaprizov. The best thing I can say about that is the fact that what he's been dealing with seems like it's something that they can wrap their arms around. It's not like it's one recurring thing that he's dealing with. I don't know the particulars. I think it all boils down to when he had to do the splits. He was forced to do the splits by the 8-foot Logan Stanley up in Winnipeg a few years ago. And I don't know that that's ever been something that has been completely rectified, maybe until now. Is that what he dealt with last year? I don't know. Maybe Russo can give us insight into that here in a little bit when we have him on the air. But I feel I want to believe that this isn't something that we're going to have to deal with for the rest of his career. We know what it was like to live in the world of Marian Gaborik, just an electric player, but his groin apparently was made of glass. It shattered every other long stride. And that was a guy that dealt with durability issues. Just an electric game changer when he was healthy. The problem is, in a Wild uniform, it wasn't enough. And that was part of the reason why they had a separation there at the end. And we know how it transpired. He ended up lifting Lord Stanley's Cup over his head in Los Angeles. I'd like to think that that's not the case here for Kirill Kaprizov, but time will tell. I mean, we're early on into his career. If we look back in 10 years and say, man, that guy just couldn't stay on the ice, then that's a conversation that we can have at that time. I think it's too early at this time to say that he's not a durable player, although the body of work says that he's having trouble staying on the ice for a full season. I want to see him get 70 games this season. Anything less than that, and then we can start having that conversation.
I just don't think getting injured and staying healthy is a skill trait. I'm just of that opinion that it's just kind of bad luck at times, but maybe it is. I've read this talkback. I haven't listened to it, but I'm very curious how this sounds.
Okay.
Hey, Dobie, following this is Dylan from Northfield. Got to tell you, the tentacles on this Minnesota Wild season are meaty, juicy, and succulent. What I think is going to happen, the Wild are going to get healthy, stay healthy. 97 is going to take us there. 107 points, division win. In the playoffs, we're not going to win one series, not two series, not three series. It's Wild and Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup final, and you're on your own after that. And I'm Dan Patrick.
That's fantastic. See,
I love it.
Common would call that duckies and bunnies. We'll call it rainbows and unicorns. But again, this is my staunch belief, you should feel this way going into game number 1 of the season. If you're the Chicago, I don't want to bag on another local team, but if you're the Minnesota Twins, you don't have a lot of hope going into the year, especially the way it finished. If you're another team like the Arizona Coyotes before they moved to Utah, you probably felt real down about the club going into the year. That shouldn't be the case here for a Minnesota Wild team that should contend for a top spot in the Central Division. Do I think they'll win the Central? I don't. Do I think they'll contend for a playoff spot in the Western Conference and a top 3 spot in the Central? I do. And if that's duckies and bunnies, if that's rainbows and unicorns, guilty as charged. Because I think there's a lot to be excited about with this team, not only with Kaprizov and Boldy, what you have with the blue line if they're healthy, what you have with Philip Gustafsson, a proven number 1 in the National Hockey League, and then the young faces that are vying for spots in the lineup, and some of them already handed the keys to the car, including Nazib Bouillon, who again will quarterback their power play and for the most part probably play top pair minutes. There's plenty to be excited about with this Minnesota Wild team. And this is the day for it. This is the day for the rainbows, unicorns, duckies, and bunnies.
I think your best case scenario, you're the 2 or the 3 in the Central, and you're going to play the 2 or the 3 in the Central in the first round, and you're on your own after that. But I think that's not a bad place to be, and they were close. I mean, I don't want to bring up the offsides again, but they were close.
That's twice now you guys have done it. I'd rather talk about Packers than Gustav Nyquist and his toe. Drag the toe, Gustav.
I think there's no reason they can't take a step forward and at least get out of the first round this year.
That would be so nice. But again, no matter what they do in the regular season, you look at the teams that are in the Central Division, the Western Conference, and the NHL as a whole. I mean, that's why it's the toughest trophy in sports to win. And Florida was unbelievable, but look at the gauntlet they had to go to get there. They had, the Edmonton Oilers 2 years in a row pushed them to the limit. And if you're the Edmonton Oilers, that's a hell of a team. They're stacked. You think they're a little frustrated there in Edmonton, but I'm sure they're feeling good about themselves coming into a new season with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the rest of them under lock and key. We'll see what happens with this Minnesota Wild team going forward. Again, starting tonight in St. Louis, a guy that's going to have the play-by-play action tonight for the Wild on The Fan is Joe O'Donnell. He'll join us next on The Fan.
Good morning, gentlemen. This is Doug from Rochester. What are the chances of Billy G going out and getting an impact player at the trade deadline with the extra cap space? Secondly, what are the chances of our young stud defenseman, Bouillon, capturing the Calder Trophy? Thanks and have a good day. Go Wild.
Very good talkback. I'd have to look at the rookie crop to realize where Zeev Buium sits, but I'd have to imagine he's going to be in the conversation. If he has the type of year that we all project, and he's going to get the amount of minutes that we all project, he's going to be right there in the conversation. And the beauty about being in the mix for a big name at the trade deadline, or even before that, should the need arise, now Bill Guerin can formulate those ideas, because that dead cap money is gone, and now the shackles are released, and he'll have the opportunity to make some noise here as this season wears along. That should be a lot of fun for everyone, including Wild general manager Bill Guerin. Congratulations to Dylan and Northfield. He had the succulent talkback here early on in that last segment, and we'll give him a pair of tickets to see the Wild and Blue Jackets for the home opener Saturday in St. Paul. Get your own tickets at wild.com/tickets. A guy that'll be there on Saturday and tonight in St. Louis is the play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Wild, Mr. Joe O'Donnell. Joe, Kevin Fallness, Brett Blakemore back in St. Louis Park. How is St. Louis treating you?
Good. Thanks for having me, fellas. Blues are on the ice right now for morning skate, and it just kind of has that, the excitement, the anticipation of a new season. It's here finally. Great to be back in the rink.
Had John Hines on earlier, and he actually likes preseason hockey. He likes training camp. He's a teacher. His role as a coach, he's supposed to wrap his arms around that time of year. You as a broadcaster, myself as an interested observer, I don't enjoy preseason hockey. You glad it's in the rear view?
I'm glad that they count for real now. I don't mind the preseason from the standpoint of, you get to see some of the prospects. You get to get a vibe for who's playing with who. Are there system changes, those sorts of things. But ultimately, especially that last game against Chicago where it was like NHL lineup on NHL lineup, a pretty good preview of what's to come, but then the game doesn't mean anything. That to me is always like, all right, well, let's turn the page and get ready for the opener here. So I'm glad it's here. This is going to be a big game. I mean, I know there's 82 regular season games for both these teams, but I think the Wild and the Blues are going to be battling it out for a playoff spot when it's all said and done. And then you could look back in the early stages of this season and look at some opportunities lost or gained, and that at the end of the day, these two teams were within a point of each other last year in the regular season. And ultimately, you can't make the playoffs or win the Stanley Cup in October, but you can certainly put yourself behind the eight ball if you don't get off to a good start. And we've seen the Wild be on sort of both ends of that, right? A couple of years ago when Dean Evison eventually got fired, slow start doomed them. Last year, a hot start's what probably got them in.
No doubt that catapulted them to what they ended up needing each and every one of those points in the grand scheme of things. Even though it came down to the last second of the regular season, that hot start got them off to a good start because of the fact that the injuries caught up to them as the year went along. For training camp, what did you take out of it? I know the big thing to watch for are the young names and how they're evolving. The big news for the Wild is that Liam Ogren, Danila Yurov at this point didn't grab a spot in the top six. That's disappointing, but then on the flip side of that, you also get to see maybe a Hunter Haight tonight, and Zeev Buium looks like he's taking another step in his career.
Yeah, and, the other couple of guys that you didn't mention in David Jiricek on the back end and Jesper Wallstedt, the backup to Philip Gustafsson. And that's one of the things that going into training camp in the preseason, Kevin, I was most excited about. As you start to roll through the summer, I start thinking about the roster and what this Wild team could look like. And I was like, hey, I don't remember a time where there were this many young players that Minnesota was going to count on to have a big impact. These kids have to play, and they've got to play well. And I'm not saying opening night they need to be at their best. Like you said, they're kind of developing. They're a work in progress. But Bill Guerin has also been on the record saying, you don't want to develop guys in the NHL. You want to make sure they're ready. So we're going to find out pretty quickly here if these kids are ready, if Yurov, if Ogren, Buium, Jiricek, Wallstedt, Hunter Haight, if he's in the lineup tonight. We're going to find out pretty quick when the lights are at its brightest here in a tough building to play in against a really good Blues team. We'll get at least a little bit more of a feel for these kids. And I think that's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to be a Wild fan. These are first round picks. These are high end talents, with a good upside and a big time ceiling. And we're going to get the watch to see how they perform here starting tonight. And there'll be some growing pains, but I really think that with the youth that they have and the skill set these kids have, if they're able to perform, this Wild team has a chance to be really good.
John Hines wasn't ready to tip his hand an hour and 45 minutes ago about what he'll decide with the lineup. But watching practice yesterday, it sure looked like Hunter Haight is going to make his NHL debut. And if he does, it'll most likely be centering the fourth line. And it did look like Jonas Brodin, despite what everyone's been telling us and what John Hines has been saying, that he'll probably miss the start of the regular season, sure looked like he was projected to be in the starting lineup tonight in St. Louis. What are you feeling about, and again, they're not on the ice for another 45 minutes, but what are you thinking about the prospects of Brodin and Haight being in the lineup tonight for Minnesota?
Yeah, I think we're going to see Hunter Haight just with the numbers. I do believe that that's going to play out. As for Brodin, kind of your guess is as good as mine. I didn't expect him to be, from sort of limited contact to full contact. In the past, guys have needed maybe more than a full contact practice. Maybe it's 2 or 3 before the coaching staff and the medical staff feel comfortable putting him in, before the player feels comfortable going in. But Brodin's a different animal. He's been like that his whole career, where, he could miss 2 months. You put him back in the lineup, and he looks like he's been playing every day. He's just a special type of player when it comes to that. So smooth out there, so smart, just plays within his abilities all the time and gives you exactly what you're expecting from Jonas Brodin. So it is a big deal, though, for the Wild, whether he's in or out, whether it's tonight or 2 or 3 games. Like, the sooner that Brodin is back and healthy and playing to his ability, the Wild just become such an instantly better team defensively. It's almost crazy. But again, those that have followed the Wild and are fans of Jonas Brodin, like most of us are, like, they get it, right? Like, he is that important along the blue line from a stability standpoint, shutting down the other team's top players, playing on the penalty kill, breaking the puck out. Like, he just does so many things well. It's whenever he's back, if it's tonight or, early in this regular season, it's a huge boost.
How about Hunter Haight? The potential to make his NHL debut. We watched him last year in the prospect camp. I thought he flashed and showed very well then, and it feels like his star continues to shine. He was the last guy cut out of training camp. Now the injury to Nico Sturm rears its ugly head, and he probably gets an opportunity to make his NHL debut tonight. What have you liked about him and watching him, and even in these preseason games where he scored a couple of goals?
You notice him. You really do. And he's got some speed to his game. And talking with some of the hockey ops staff, like a Brad Bombardier and a Matt Hendricks and Chris Kelleher, at various times throughout training camp and during the Tom Kerber's rookie showcase, where Haight was on, full display, I wanted to get a feel for that, for a number of prospects, Haight included. And the one thing that I kept hearing was about how he is tenacious. He's got some jam to his game, right? He's going to be in your face. And I think that's something that's going to really help him if tonight is his NHL debut, is just that confidence to buzz around out there, to play in on the forecheck. Everything I gathered about Haight is that by the end of last year, he really earned the coach's trust in Iowa as far as being a 200-foot player. The American Hockey League, as you know, Kevin, is a difficult league to play in, especially for a young kid, for a number of reasons. It's grown men out there. It's guys fighting for their paycheck and for their hockey careers in some aspects. And then you also have the mix of really young, talented players and the bus travel and all those things to go into playing so many back-to-backs and 3 games in 3 days. It's not an easy league. He had 20 goals. And I'm telling you right now, a 20-goal season in the AHL for a young player like that tells me a lot. So I'm excited to see him if it is tonight or early in this season. Again, the injury of Nico Sturm really sucks for this Wild team. He was one of their free agent acquisitions, obviously. Arguably their biggest as far as a free agent signing goes. It's a tough blow for the Wild. They really wanted him for the face-off dot and the penalty kill and his experience. So it's going to be it's a big mess to not have Nico Sturm for what appears going to be a long time. It's a significant injury that he's going to have something done about and a long rehab process, it sounds like. I mean, John Hines is not very optimistic about him being back anytime soon. So hopefully a young kid like Haight can fill the void at least for tonight or early in the season. We'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and another guy that they did get in the offseason, not only Nico Sturm, they got Vladimir Tarasenko. And we've been talking about a lot of the other pieces within this lineup in the first hour and change of this broadcast. How about Vladimir Tarasenko? Tremendous upside. Definitely didn't have the best showing in the couple of stops that he's had since he's left St. Louis. But what do you make of the possibility of him in a top six role in certainly the twilight of his career, but still a guy that I've seen it. He can definitely shoot the puck.
Yeah, he's a goal scorer, over 300 career goals, a lot of them in a Blues sweater. So this is an interesting debut for the Wild and season opener for him in a place he spent so many years, winning a Stanley Cup here in 2019. I'm looking for big things from Tarasenko. You know, if he gives them 20 goals, I think it's a huge win. It was a low risk, high reward possibility when they made that trade. You know, didn't really give up anything to get Tarasenko this summer, and he's got something to prove. There are people out there probably doubting him after the year he had in Detroit. So I'm looking forward to see what he brings. I think he's going to help out the power play immensely. You have a real shooting threat now on the man advantage, as we saw in the final preseason game when he had a power play goal against the Blackhawks. I think that'll open up some things up top for a Bouillon to maybe have a little bit more room patrolling the blue line on the top power play unit. So I'm thinking big things are in store for Tarasenko. The thing I'll be looking for is how is he moving out there? You know, is he fluid? Is he able to push the pace on that line with Joel Eriksson, or is he more of just kind of, at this point in his career, a little bit more of a stationary player and just a shooter? If he can give the Wild some pace to his game and find some chemistry with Eriksson and whoever else they eventually find to fit on that other wing, I think there's a big chance for Tarasenko to deliver for this Wild team, and I think they're certainly going to need it. You know, goal scoring for Minnesota was a big-time issue down the stretch last year. Late in the regular season, the goal scoring really dried up. Now, again, no Kaprizov, no Eriksson for a large stretch, obviously after the Four Nations face-off. So let's see what Tarasenko can give him, but I'm hoping 20 finding the back of the net for him is pretty realistic, and he comes through on that.
To me, the big moves that Bill Guerin made in the offseason was locking up those guys that were hanging out there in the potential of expiring contracts. You lock up Kirill Kaprizov, you lock up Marco Rossi, you lock up Philip Gustafsson. To me, that's huge, especially with that now what's making up 2/3 of your top line. I know from my vantage point, and I'm not there in arena for those road games, but watching Kirill Kaprizov, Marco Rossi, and Matt Boldy working their magic on that top trio, I was excited for what I saw and the potential going into the regular season. All that could change. I get that after even one shift, but it looks like that's going to be your top line going into the regular season opener. What did you think about the chemistry those guys have developed, and how excited are you about the possibilities for these three?
I love it. All three of them were dynamic in their limited preseason action, I thought. I love the chemistry. Rossi looks quicker. We know that he, continues to add strength and size to his frame. So I'm looking for another big year for Rossi, who had 60 points last season. Matt Boldy led the team in scoring, again, in large part because Kaprizov missed half the year. But remember, when Kaprizov went out, he was pacing the NHL in points. So you have the potential there to be a dynamic top line, one of the best in the National Hockey League. The question then will be, what else do you have, right? You can't be a one-line team in this league. So that depth scoring, that second line with no Matt Zuccarello for a while. Minnesota's depth is going to be tested early because of the injuries to Sturm and Zuccarello. And it'll be kind of interesting for me to see who else steps up. Can Yakov Trenyon have a better year? Just a handful of goals last season wasn't good enough. He looks quicker. We know he's lost some weight. He scored a couple of goals in the preseason. What can he give you? Can Marcus Foligno score 15 goals this year? Can Ryan Hartman get back anywhere near that 34-goal form from a couple seasons ago? So I'm really excited about the top line. I think they're going to be dynamic and excellent most nights and probably help carry this Wild team to a lot of their success. But again, after that, where's the rest of the scoring from? I think that's a big question for the Wild. I hope we have answers to it, sooner rather than later, and this team performs offensively. But I think that top line overall is going to be asked to do a lot, and I fully expect them to deliver.
Duckies and bunnies, rainbows and unicorns. It's game one of the regular season, so everybody's feeling good about themselves. Kirill Kaprizov looked great. We talked about how good he looked on that top line, but he's coming in healthy. He looks like a fire hydrant with legs, the way he just can fend off attackers. We're setting the over-under at 45 goals and 100 points. Joe O'Donnell, if he plays 70 games, do you take the over in both?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a 50-goal season if he's healthy. I don't see any reason why that's not, a realistic expectation for him. He's got a chance to surpass Marian Gaborik for most goals in Wild history this season. If he stays healthy, I fully expect him to do that. He's, on the cusp of 200 in his career, which would pass Parisi and put him top 3 all-time in Wild history. I think there's more records to be broken this year for Kaprizov, and I look forward to him getting started early in this campaign and really with that contract situation behind him, leading this team in the right direction.
All right, give me a preview of game one of the regular season. It'll be a 7-14 puck drop tonight from St. Louis, but it could have been worse. 7-14, we'll take it. Give us kind of a preview of the Central Division collision against their rival, the St. Louis Blues.
Well, we know Jordan Binnington will be in net for St. Louis. They've made a couple of changes in the offseason. Pius Suter brought in this summer. He's a guy that actually had a really good year offensively last year, one of his best in finding the back of the net. So he'll kind of slot in and be, I'm assuming, like in that third-line center ice role. We all know about Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas, two of the top guns for the Blues offensively over the last few years. And we'll get our first glance, or I will anyway, of Jimmy Snuggerud. Burst onto the scene with the Blues late last year after finishing up his collegiate career. Had a really good playoff run for St. Louis. Remember, the Blues had a chance to upend the Winnipeg Jets in Game 7, and heartbreaking fashion, dropped that contest in overtime after the Jets rallied to tie it in the final second. So they're probably a little stung from how their playoff run ended last year. Both teams are pretty much regulars in the playoffs over the last handful of years. I think this is going to be, an important early season matchup for Minnesota. One game's not going to make or break your year, but if you can get off with 2 points out of this building and a divisional game on the road to kick things off, I think it really just sets the table for a month of October where 6 of the first 8 are on the road. You've got a couple of back-to-backs this month, including next week when you host LA and then go to Dallas. That's a tough back-to-back. So, definitely a big opportunity for Minnesota to get off on the right foot here tonight.
Less than 8 hours until we're on the air with the pregame from St. Louis. Between now and then, what happens with you? You're going to watch the skate. Then do you and Tom Reed go get lunch? Are you buying? What happens between now and then?
Well, I'm not buying. Come on. I'm going to jump into Jim Montgomery's presser here in a moment and then get ready for the Wild to hit the ice, finish up a little bit of game prep, and then, hopefully get ready for a win.
Good luck, Joe. If you see Gorgie, tell him to mute TV, and we'll be listening for you tonight.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
There he is, the play-by-play voice of your Minnesota Wild, Mr. Joe O'Donnell. He and Tom Reed, all the play-by-play action when we drop the puck tonight on the regular season. 7:14 on your radio dial. We'll get things underway. Pre-game starts at 6:45, and not only are we going to hear from John Hines and Tom Reed, we've got a conversation with Philip Gustafson. We got a conversation with the rookie, Hunter Haight. It should be a lot of fun to get things going here in the regular season as we make our way towards the 82-game grind, make our way towards the postseason. And who knows, could this be the year they get out of the first round for the first time since 2015? I think so. There's something going to be magical about the 25th season of Minnesota Wild hockey. Go ahead and take in all the action for yourself, including tonight on your radio dial. And of course, you will hashtag Mute TV. When we continue, we'll continue with those talkbacks, giving away tickets to the home opener Saturday in St. Paul when the Wild host the Columbus Blue Jackets. But on the other side of break, what a treat we have. America's favorite blogger is going to grace your airwaves, Michael Russo from The Athletic, when we continue on The Fan.